Cashomaniacs.
GeoGearHeads.
2012 is just about over, and this is the 52nd and final episode of the GeoGearHeads for this year. I'm Daryl W4.
And I'm the bad cop. And once again, we have a returning guest to talk about Earthcaching. Now, each week we strive to bring you the most accurate information possible, and in that vein, we have a few corrections from last week's show. I mentioned that Basecamp was only for Windows and Mac, but neglected to mention that a special version of Basecamp was released earlier this year for iOS for just the Phoenix GPS. This app is for iOS devices with Bluetooth 4.0.
So that's like the new iPads, the iPhone 4S and iPhone 5, and it is a little bit stripped down. Now, I also mentioned the bump in the iOS 6 upgrades following the release of Google Maps, and as people analyzed that information a little bit more, it turned out that iOS 6 upgrade spike was due to availability in China, not the Google Maps, and that's according to Chitika, is I think how that's pronounced, but we'll link to the unofficial Apple weblog article about it.
Good deal. Now, Daryl, next week we're back. Get this, without the beta tag. It's our first episode of 2013. And it's going to be a conversation with J.J. Barrett's 2 about his hides. You can join us live through the Google Plus Hangout on Air, either on Google Plus or through YouTube at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on January 3rd. If you have any questions, comments, or general feedback, you can write us at geogearheads@cachemaniacs.com. Send us a note through social media, or, like this cacher did, call into 206-350-3647.
Hi guys, it's Merster calling from Ontario, Canada. I just wanted to tell you I really enjoy your show. I've been going back through some back episodes and listening to ongoing episodes. I think it's absolutely great. So give yourselves a big pat on the back, put your arm straight up, bend your elbow, pat yourself on the back. I must admit sometimes I get a little lost at some of the technical talk, and I find it difficult to pick it up. I would hope sometime you would do a basic show, kind of a what you need to know. I always say I don't know what I don't know, and that might be a good topic to cover at some point. Things like Google Plus. I kind of know what it is, but I don't really know what it is. You use a lot of tech terms in short form sometimes without explaining them. I'd like to see those. My big beef, as it were, is with where I go. I think it is the key to get kids out of the house and off the couch because it's location-based, and I think that's the future of gaming, to get these kids out and moving. But keep up the great work. Love the show. We'll continue to watch. Hope all goes well. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, gentlemen.
Well, thank you very much. Happy New Year to you, and thank you very much, really, for the kind words. And we love that idea of doing the basic show, but the problem is we really don't know most of the time what we would need to cover in that basic show. So please, anytime anyone has something that we're talking about that they don't quite understand, drop us a note, an email, give us a call on the voicemail line, drop us just something on social media saying I don't know what this was about, and we'd love to put together a show that has a bunch of those more I shouldn't say entry level, but more of the basic type of descriptions, the terms and things like that. But you asked about Google Plus, and basically Google Plus is another social network tied to Google services, of course, because it's Google, but it's kind of like a Facebook-ish social network, but very, very different from Facebook, in my opinion.
True. Now, Merster, I agree with you to a point. I think the idea of where I go will help kids get off the couch, but it's just the idea. We talked in last week's show, which you may not have even listened to yet. Where I Go is not the perfect tool for getting people moving. An Ingress Where I Go hybrid might have the draw to attract the curious. I believe there has to be an online strategy portion with a real-world reward system. maybe tie the Munsey point system into Skyrim or something like that.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, the more I'm getting into Ingress, the more interested in getting, and the more interesting it is. And I think that there's a lot of potential there that they haven't even begun to tap. One of the big things with Ingress is it kind of is based around landmarks. It's
Hmm.
anything that's a sculpture, historic site, so it does take you to some interesting places. And one of the places that it took me was a tree used to stand in this spot for which the city was named. That's not something I necessarily would have known if it weren't for Ingress. And I had heard about that kind of stuff before, but I never saw it. So that was something that really was interesting. And again, this is a game that's really getting people up off the couch, getting them out, running around. And the thing I like about Ingress that I really didn't comprehend until just today is the amount of cooperative play that you really do need to do in order to be successful at it. And it doesn't mean that you have to go out with those other people, but you just have to work with them. And it has this great little comm interface, which still needs a little work, but it's a comm interface for chatting, geolocation tagged, and you can chat back and forth with everyone in the game or with just the people in your faction. And as we mentioned, it was divided into two teams, and the teams are called factions. So just tonight I was out working on some portals, and big get-together with a bunch of guys yesterday had happened, and they converted a bunch of portals from the Resistance to the Enlightened, and so today a bunch of us who weren't part of the team are running around doing some cleanup from that. And one of the guys was in my area and said, "Hey, I just noticed that you did this over here. You want to get together, meet up and say hi?" So we met up and said hi, and it was really, really cool. And geocaching had tried something like this about 3 or 4 years ago, I think it was, based on Windows Phone, back when it was Windows CE, and it really didn't go anywhere. But in the game where it's embedded like this, it's a pretty cool idea. So I can really see that being a key to whatever this killer app is in the future. Something where it is more like a where I go kind of game, maybe. Ingress, I think, it's going to get kind of old for some people because it is just basically capture the flag, and you're sitting there going back and forth, converting a portal. Someone else takes it back, and you have to convert it. It is a lot more involved with that, but at its core, that's as simple as it is. With that social aspect, it becomes a little bit more interesting, though. And if geocaching could do something like that, if Where I Go could have something like that, I think that could be really cool.
Mm-hmm. Well, when you can add a social aspect to any game, it becomes more interesting. Monopoly by yourself isn't so much fun. But do you think, Daryl, this is a game that younger kids, I'm thinking the tweens, 11, 12, 13-year-olds would be getting into?
I definitely think it will be once it gets a little bit more refined. A lot of the portals that I'm working with are in the downtown area of smaller town kind of thing, smaller city. And I literally walk around between these. This is one of the reasons why I've gotten involved with it as much as I have, is because I go there to do my walking rather than go to the mall since it's not good biking weather.
Mm-hmm.
And I just walk between all these portals, and I'll do the 3 or 4 laps before I burn them out, because there's a number of times you can hit them within a certain time frame before they shut down. So I just run around like that, and I could see kids doing that. I could really see them getting together, teaming up, and having a lot of fun battling with their friends for control of that particular portal.
Oh, good deal. I'm shocked that you found a place through Ingress that you didn't know about through geocaching.
I know. Well, it's one of those locations where, unless it were a virtual cache, you're not going to find out about, because like we've mentioned so many times as to why we like virtual caches, there's no way you could put a traditional cache there and have it survive. It just isn't going to happen.
Okay.
So this is one of the reasons why I really think we need to have something like virtual caches in geocaching.
That's well enough said.
So, getting back to the basics show topic, please, by all means, let us know what you would like us to talk about and what you'd like us to define better. And again, we mentioned call those in to 206-350-3647 or email them to geogearheads@cachemaniacs.com through social media as well. But if you may be a little bit too embarrassed to ask, just drop us an email or drop us a note on social networking and say you'd rather remain anonymous. That's perfectly fine. We totally understand, and we're more than happy to go about it that way. But in some cases, when we have something that's a little bit more in-depth, we will provide links to like a Wikipedia article or something like that in the show notes. So by all means, if you're having some issues, hit those show notes, because we will have links that, if maybe not directly to a term, will be on the topic and give you a little bit more information that way.
Well, now we've got feedback this week from Jeep in Idaho through Google+. One of my favorite places for earth caching is Niagara Falls. There's quite a few in that area, and they're all very interesting. I found a few on the Canadian side, but none on the U.S. side yet. So thank you, Jeep in Idaho.
And I've actually been to Niagara Falls, but I think it was like just before the Earth caches were re-released, so I don't think I've done any of those. But there are some great locations up there for Earth caches.
I can only imagine.
And, of course, Earth caches are the topic for tonight, and we're calling this Earth Cache 1 because last time we talked about the gear that you really need to find it. But we've brought back ClickChick to talk about Earth caches more in general. So welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. If I cut out at any time, just be aware that I not just a geologist and not just things, but I'm also a dog trainer. So the dogs may have some interesting insight into things tonight.
Nice.
One of the big places to go to get started with earth caches in general, just finding out general information, is not geocaching.com itself, but earthcache.org. Earthcache.org maintains a list of all earth caches, and in a format that you can sort them. You can sort them by who placed them, you can sort them by the country, you can sort them by the state. It looks like Germany, per square miles, seems to be the leader in earth caches. There is an incredible number of earth caches over in Germany, which makes perfect sense since it is just a diverse geologic area in a very small package. There's a lot of you've got the mountains there, you've got the deltas, the coast area, and everything in between. Here in the United States, I was looking just in general. I was comparing Washington State to Wisconsin, and you would think Washington, well, with all the geocaching going on, would have more earth caches, but turns out Wisconsin is very earth cache friendly, and it actually has more than Washington right now. So that's not exactly most people's idea of a destination state to come from. If you're going from like Arizona or from other things, but Wisconsin has a number of trail systems, and their DNR is very welcoming of both earth caches and as well as traditional and multis and puzzles and such. Last time I talked a little bit about the badges, and the original badge system was the earth cache bronze and silver and gold and platinum, and that was a combination of finding earth caches and in different states as well as in as well as creating earth caches themselves. And I think if you're really wanting to get started with it, that's the place to take a look at. And you think, oh, there's nothing around here. I live in Indianapolis, Indiana, and there is absolutely nothing I can talk about. I'm from Indianapolis, and I can tell you that there's a lot to talk about. I can think of one in particular, and I'm going to pick on that area because I know it. Southwest Way Park has the White River running through it, and there's a few cut-off meanders in there. There's a caving bank. There's a deposition bank. You can talk about the river. You can talk about the bluff there. You want to know an area that has a, here we go. Ah, yes. The welcoming committee. My husband is home. Geek Boy is home. They're not as loud as they usually are. Usually it's deafening. Oh, please excuse me for that.
Not a problem.
Let me go back to where I was talking about this. Oh, yep. Uh-oh.
Well, it really sounds like just about anywhere you're going to be able to find something for an earth cache. But it does seem like one of the big problems that we run into is with people getting the permission and getting the sources. So that's one of the reasons why I really like doing that with the parks, because generally there's someone there that you can work with who will also give you some good information to help out.
That is one of the things with the Wisconsin DNR. They've been extremely friendly. What I found, the county parks as well, that I have worked with. I do have one earth cache up in Wisconsin. Very easy to deal with. I haven't found that case to be the case here in Illinois. It's a little bit trickier. I have in my county, Lake County, I can place an earth cache just about anywhere in the county park system, which is called a forest preserve here, except Ryerson Forest Preserve. I can't even place an earth cache in that particular park. And it's a very environmentally sensitive park, and they're really discouraging of it, and I really wanted to place one there because I wanted to show the effects of a fire break, of how the river itself is a fire break for the prairie, and how the different plants go on either side. But because there's some well-known maples in that preserve. However, that was one of my ideas that I had that was nixed because I'm like, Ryerson's off limits. You'd be surprised. I mean, they're working with the National Park Service. In some ways, is easier than your counties because there's more lined out rules. Mammoth Cave that I mentioned last time, because I just been there, has numerous earth caches there. And some of them are based on this visitor center, some of them are based off there, but they have been very welcoming. But they're surface-based caches. There's not any caches that you find at depth. One reason why is they charge to go into the caves itself. Number two, to be perfectly honest, Mammoth Cave, unless you get to the very end where the water has been seeping in, is a very dull cave. So you don't see it's not like Carlsbad Caverns. If you're familiar with Carlsbad Caverns in New Mexico, you have beautiful stalactites, beautiful stalagmites. There's only really one area that the public is allowed in Mammoth Cave where you see those speleothems. Speleothems refers to cave forms. Also, GPSs don't work so well underground.
I was just going to say that. I suspect that you'd have some problems getting a good location for it, both in hiding and in finding.
Yes. I mean, there's some definite cave, markers there. Some of it's archaeological, as in recent archaeological, as, gee, before this became a national park, a bunch of Purdue students put their name in 1927 up on the wall when they were mapping it, which was a standard thing done back then. When I went through the cave originally in the 70s, the one area that I saw again just this year had beautiful colored lights and playing off that, and now the lighting is very subdued because what they found is that just by going in, all the people going in, and plus these extra bright lights were causing algae to grow and causing problems with the cave formations. So another problem we have with caves in the eastern United States, and hopefully this won't become a western United States problem as well, is white nose disease. I do encourage people right now in the eastern United States to be very sensitive and not place earth caches inside of caves. Number one, your GPS doesn't work very well. Number two, white nose disease is very easy to transmit on your boots.
Now, if I remember correctly, white nose disease is like a fungus that's actually been killing some bats.
Killing lots of bats. There's what I particularly, the endangered Indiana brown-nosed bat is particularly susceptible. I shouldn't say susceptible. The population is susceptible because it's already on the endangered list. And so while the wild populations of some of these endangered bats may be completely wiped out because of it. And white nose is not in Mammoth Caves as of the time I visited. It is in Kentucky and in Indiana for sure. So it's made at least that far west. I don't know how much further west it is, but it's made it at least that far west. So there's some things that you really need to take in mind. Caves are a great place that you could do one. However, probably want to stick to, especially in the, like I said, the eastern United States, to limit yourself to the outside forms. Rock cuts is another place, and you pass by them all the time if you're in the western United States and you don't think a thing about it. But you also have to consider your safety. I visited one that was a pull-off area in Colorado outside of Boulder that kind of snuck up on me pretty quickly. It was like, ooh, 60 feet away, we're on. Not my better time in a rental car. Found it easy enough. But the things you can, it's sometimes you have to you really look at things. One is your national parks will have somebody that you can contact, perhaps for suggestions for creating one. If you're looking on a state level or even a local level, your local community college or university center is going to be your best bet, if not the State Geological Survey. Now, I mentioned all of these last time. Western United States, you're going to have a lot more rock as it's just exposed. Most of the rock out here is covered in this green stuff. So Eastern geology can take you to interesting places like road cuts and railroad crossings, cuts through, as well as just plain gravel pits and that. Most of gravel pits, you're not going to be looking at that unless they've been changed into a park. There is one in Racine County that is a park, has beautiful fossil beds in there. And if it isn't an earth cache yet, it's going to be, because I'm going to do it myself. The only problem is that during certain parts of the year, it is a charge to get into there because of the old limestone. Actually, it's not limestone quarry, but I'll call it a limestone quarry. Geology people, it's Dullestone. Yes, I know, but it's easier to say limestone. It's an old quarry that has long since used and is now used for swimming and diving. Scuba divers train in there. It's a lot clearer water than Lake Michigan. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
There you
there's a
go.
lot of quarries that get converted for scuba training and whatnot, and you'll find some of them where they've sunk things like buses in to train you how to do wreck diving.
Yeah, that's something to consider. I have a beautiful lake shore, but once again, you're going to have to work with your, that key is getting a good relationship with your local park district. Now, let's take a look at the flip side. I don't really feel comfortable about it, but I wouldn't mind going to search for an earth cache. I highly recommend, if you want to specifically look at earth caches, that the listing on earthcache.org is nice, but it does not beat out a pocket query. That premium membership is to your advantage to run a pocket query to find out whether caches there are in your area or along a route or wherever that you're traveling. And most of the time your earth caches are not going to be, they're not going to be high difficulty or terrain hides until you get into the western United States. Then if you're going up mountain, you have to take a 5-mile hike up Mount Rainier, then your 5 can come, your 4 can come in handy. And if you need to go rappelling first before you find this particular outcrop, then it could be a 5. But then again, your earth cache probably won't get found very often, if at all. Because if somebody's going to go rappelling, I think they're going to be looking for a little container.
Right.
There's something about the tangible box, whether it's the highest point of the state of Indiana, earth cache. Okay, that is a joke, a personal joke, because first of all, until recently, the highest point in the state of Indiana has not had a name. Number one, it's now referred to as Mount Hoosier. It's a simple hill outside of Richmond, Indiana, in surrounded by farmers' fields. It is, and that's not near the highest point in. I mean, if you go just a mile to the east, you're in Ohio. So if you miss it, you're in Ohio. I know, I made it into Ohio. No, it's not you got states all around us so proud of their highest points, and here's Indiana with this little hill in there. It's one of those things where, gee, now I can say I've hit the highest point in the state of Indiana.
Yes. I've been to the highest point in the state of Ohio. It's right along a highway. There's a sign there that says, this is the highest point, and that's it. It's just a rise in the road, and it goes on back down, and off you go.
Near the West Virginia border, let me guess.
No, I want to say more towards the middle of the state. My dad drove me there one day.
Okay. I would figure it'd be closer to the Appalachians.
Exactly.
That's a little surprising for me. Actually, I haven't visited the one in Illinois. Those are logical places. If your highest point in your state doesn't have an earth cache, place it. Highest point in your county, place an earth cache. There is one at the highest point in my county now. There was when I started caching. Earth caches, when I started, had not been around for very long at all. But they, of course, being a geologist, they immediately captured my thing. My attention. We went over really what you needed last time. I think we did that pretty thoroughly. But, for earth caches, sometimes you're going to get wet, sometimes you're going to get muddy, sometimes you're going to have to do some more stuff and to figure them out. And
well, especially when you're trying to list one, you're going to have to be a little bit more prepared than you would finding it. And it is nice to collect that information to put on the actual listing so that people know what kind of materials they're going to need, what kind of protective gear they might need to go and do that earth cache.
Right. Right. I mean, the one in the fen, I don't expect it to get found during the summer because the mosquitoes are so thick in that particular area. It could carry you, out to the middle of the marsh. Uh, those kind of things. And I say, there are ticks, there's biting insects. Those things. Pay attention to those things. Some earth caches, like my fen earth cache, it's not very exciting during the winter, but during the early spring, before the skeeters get out, and then in the fall, after basically they've been killed off, you can still see the vegetation. It's not covered in snow, and you can see where these different, where the different parts of that wetland are. And then the upland part where you have the drier trees that like a drier soil conditions is what I was saying, upland of it. So, the finding out the information is not just taking a Wikipedia page and pasting it into or taking a copy of it from or typing it in from a textbook. There's a saying that I can't remember who said it, but if I'd had more time, I would have written a shorter letter. And which essentially is take the time to be succinct, give the people the information, but don't give it to them on a silver platter. Don't just regurgitate what you don't understand. If you don't understand something, that's when you need to turn to help. You need to find somebody who's put out a bunch of earth caches, or find somebody at the local community college, somebody from the Park Service. If you're working with a state, a bigger state than Illinois, and you're not, you're going to work with the state survey or the National Park Service.
Well, it's always a good thing to run any of your earth cache text through those experts, especially at the Park Service, not just for them maybe finding something that isn't quite accurate, or maybe even giving you a better way to put it, but also they might have some concerns about something, where you're taking people, or some information that they don't really want someone to know, or something like that. So it's best to give them the opportunity before you actually submit it for review, to give them the opportunity for a final pass.
Right. I know that when we went to the Lincoln Birth Site National Monument, there is an earth cache on the grounds there. That's where Lincoln's family had gotten their water from. It's a little sinkhole there. And we talked to one of the park rangers there for a while. He saw us sitting there and was wondering what we were up to. He'd seen us kind of loitering around and looking like geocachers, basically.
You're
So
stealing
suspicious.
the water.
Yeah, yeah, a little suspicious, and it's so we talked to him for a while, and I guess some people had gone in and looked for a cache container. Well, one of the problems at that particular park, copperheads are not unusual to crop up on the walkways. So you really, especially in the spring and when it's a little cool out, you really don't want to be poking. Hardhead says poke it with a stick. He's not kidding. When you're down in Copperhead country or Moccasin country, those suckers can hide in places where you don't even, us Northerners don't even think about it. Not that we don't have rattlesnakes up here, which we certainly do in some areas. They're not as common, and I hate to say as dangerous, but I consider the copperhead and moccasin more dangerous venoms than the rattlesnake. I could be completely mistaken in that part. Don't take that word for gospel. But as a kid, I grew up very much respecting those two, And rattlesnakes were something that happened out west. I didn't even know about timber rattlers back then. So, yeah, the Park Service can really help because, you think, oh, nice earth cache, there's these nice sidewalks here. There's not going to be any critters around. Wrong.
Indeed. Let's take a quick break for a second and let people know that right now there's more than 14,000 Earth caches worldwide, and International Earth Caching Day is coming up on October 13th for 2013, and of course there's going to be the second annual International Earth Cache event, and that's going to be GC 3JG9V, and we'll link to that stuff in the show notes. So if you're really into earth caching, that's a great thing to check out. Unfortunately, I don't think any of us on the show tonight were at the first of the earth caching events out at Maine last year.
No, it was in Maine. Is it still in Maine this coming year as well? I didn't see that.
In Utah this year.
In Utah, good. It's going to move around. That'll be great.
Yep, in St. George, Utah on September 7th. So it actually doesn't coincide with the Earth Cache Day, which is something to keep in mind as well.
St. George, Utah has a very nice university there, local to there, and some of the universities base their field camps out of St. George. So St. George is kind of a site that's easily accessible to a lot of different geological features. When I say a university puts a field camp somewhere, geology students, usually in their undergrad, are required at most schools to take a 6 to 8 week field experience camp where you're doing field mapping. And where you locate these, they try and locate them in such a way they have very interesting, well-studied geology that shows a variety of different things. All your metamorphics, your sedimentary rocks, folding, faulting, volcanic activity. So in that area, you're going to see a good variety of different things. So I think that's an excellent location for them to have that. I wish I could go. I wish I could have gone last year. Maine and Utah are just a little out of my range, unfortunately.
Yeah, it is quite a little bit. Also, when you are placing the earth caches, ClickCheck you had mentioned it's good to get the location of the other caches. But what we didn't mention this time, I think we mentioned it in the last episode, was that you don't have to worry about the physical proximity to physical caches with the earth caches. You could theoretically have a earth cache right on top of a geocache, a traditional multi-cache, whatever. You don't really want to do that because of the icon clutter. But if for whatever reason you need to do that, that's fine. You can do that.
You can do that, and when I do have that situation of in fact my first earth cache that I placed, it's off enough that you can see there's two there, and I also asked the permission of the other cacher who owned that cache if they minded. And you know what? It's just good policy. Just staying friendly with everybody, because people that go for my particular one, if there's an event locally, people use my cache oftentimes to do one of those multi-icon days. It's placed in an area, there's multis, there's traditionals, there's puzzles nearby, there's a where I go not too far away. And so when people look for these multiple icons, this is one of the caches they consider. Plus, it's a fun walk up the hill.
Yeah, it's always nice to get a little walking in when you're caching.
Oh, yeah.
And then if you wait long enough and we get actually some snow, then it's a nice icy slide down the hill. It's the local sledding. It's one of the local sledding hills.
Ah, there you go.
So what are some of the things that you want to do for your logging requirements for a cache. Sorry. For those of you not watching, I just had a cat climb up my back and is now sitting on my shoulder. So anyways.
Tonight is the night of the animals.
Yes, it is.
So what are some of the things that you might want to look at for logging requirements in your cache listing, your Earth cache listing?
It really depends on what you're looking at. I always like a photo. Photos are always optional. So that's not really something, I always get a kick out of them for that. I ask a question on one of my Earth caches, what kind of drainage is found in this area. It's a little hard to see, but if they were to look at their map, first of all, it requires you know how to read a topographic map.
Okay.
And the topographic map needs to, if you look at it, the V's on a topographic map is where the streams are. And if the V's always point downhill, so that way you know which way the stream's going. So if you look at it, does it look like a tree? Does it look like it's a ring around? It's like in circles, kind of like a labyrinth maze around a circle. Does it look deranged, like it's just going every which direction? And that is it somewhat linear, where they're all following the same path, and then they jump and go down another path, in parallel lines? Those are the kinds of things I ask, and actually, if you look at it, you really can't tell. So you get all kinds of interesting answers. It's actually, the word deranged is there for a reason. And it really depends on what you're looking at. I mean, the beach shore, you could be asking them to identify 5 of the rocks that you find here in this pile, or find it's like one of them was find a rock of certain type and show yourself as a picture of it. Obviously, it was before the pictures were not a required, an optional item. But I asked what's the highest point in the county. I ask, what's the height of this particular cane. I ask how white something is, what the temperature, what the pH is. It really depends on what you're looking at. With the river, maybe you can calculate flow, or river or stream. If you're looking at like an outcrop of rocks, you can have them find a fossil and try and identify it, and point them to a link where they can find, because you can't possibly put every single thing they're going to find in an outcrop. But if you can put a link to common fossils of, say this is along Indiana 37 down near Bloomington, Indiana, a link to common fossils of the Bloomington, Indiana area. That would be like crinoids and bryozoans and gastropods. Listen to me, brachiopods. These are the kind of things you can find, and what the bryozoans look like, and what the crinoid stems look like. You could do something like that. There's as many things as what is going on there. There is no one solid answer for any particular thing, because an artesian well cache, you're looking at the flow of the water through there. Where's it coming from? If you look around, there's these high hills over to the west of you, where that's where the water table, and now you're below where the water table, that's the way an artesian well works, or a spring works.
One of the things that's going to make it a good Earth cache is that you have the method to figure out whatever the answers are that they're going to need somehow listed there, so that
Right.
they're going to be able to do that in the field. And it's really important to have that information, and in some cases, if you don't have adequate information there, your cache will be rejected.
Right. Right. I mean, it says, if the idea is they read through this first, because if you're in the middle of Cornell, Illinois, don't expect to get an internet connection on your smartphone. If you haven't downloaded the information about the wind turbines already, you're pretty sunk doing that Earth cache. Been there, done that. So I do recommend people to try. I know it's not always possible with some of them, but try and read through the Earth caches before you go, because there may be a link that you'll want to print out, such as, common fossils of Bloomington, Indiana, or Bedford, Indiana, for that matter, that you want to have, available, or such as a link, what the different drainages are.
Right. I think it makes it so much more interesting than simply pulling information off a placard that happens to be nearby. I've done a couple of those where, anybody can come up here. I usually just take a picture of them, walk away. I figure I can do it in the car on the way back.
As I said last time, my biggest bugaboo is the plaque Earth caches. Signs disappear. Signs get changed. Redevelopment happens. That's a good way of putting it. Redevelopment happens. And don't think that tree's always going to be there either. There's this little thing called lightning.
Yep. I've heard of it. Yeah.
They can burn down trees, as I found when I created my Earth cache. It's like, there is a sign there. Don't count on the sign being there still.
Right. I haven't done that many Earth caches myself, but I remember driving through an area and seeing, oh, well, there's an Earth cache right here at this pullout. Let's go do it because we're here. We need a break anyway. And, it was more than just reading from the placard. It was taking the information from the placard and what you see and then applying beyond that, which I thought was very nice. So.
I mean, they do have their place, and for the muggle who comes through, they're invaluable because they would just be walking around looking at the plants.
Right.
Otherwise, if we didn't tell them that this is the edge of where a glacier stabilized.
Oh, without a doubt, yes.
I mean, I'm not saying I'm against signs. I say don't rely on them because I know of one virtual cache that has way outlived the sign that was there. Right. I won't say where it's at, but it's a very popular Earth cache. It's still, actually, I know of a second one where the sign has been moved, and anybody who even has driven by the place has logged the cache. At least I can say that I was at the location because that's where TSA dumps you out.
Okay.
Interesting. Well, we've got a lot more good information to think about on tonight's show, but do you have any links that maybe we should include in the show notes for people to get even some more information?
Well, first of all, geocaching.com, consider a premium membership because pocket queries are your friend. Pocket queries can, like I said, unless you use something like GSAC to really sort things, a pocket query that focuses on Earth caches can say, hey, I didn't know there was one 5 or 15 miles away, because you don't see them because of all the other lamppost traditionals that are between you and 5 miles away necessarily. I'm making a tongue-in-cheek joke because for a while that seemed like every week 50 new lamp skirt caches were coming out for a while here in Chicago. Earthcaching.org is an excellent site. I don't have a particular link, but your state survey, your state DNR, which is Department of Natural Resources. It may be called differently in different states or commonwealths. Your state university system, especially some of the Western universities. I think some of the California universities do a very good job with their department and links to professors. And believe me, if somebody contacts our local community college here in Lake County, contacts the geologist, I guarantee you they would be tickled to death to help. Now, I can't speak for every instructor at every community college. And not only that, don't forget they're on break right now.
Mm-hmm.
I know this is coming out over right before New Year's. And they're on break right now, and they won't be back to their email for at least another 3 weeks. So you might want to hold off on emailing universities and colleges right now, but don't forget that as a source as well.
Well, you can always email. It'll be there when they get back.
Among the other 300 emails. If I do saying that on the low end, having been an instructor for a community college myself.
Touché.
Well, thank you very much for joining us again, and hopefully we'll be able to do another one and maybe get some more Earth cache information then.
And maybe I will be past 39 Earth caches and actually made my 50 Earth caches for the patch.
Nice. That would be great. All right. And don't forget, everyone who's going to join us next week, we're talking with GeoGearHeads about his caches, and that's going to be the first of our shows without the beta tag. Though I have to say, Bad Cop, after the problems that we had again today with Google+, I'm not sure I necessarily feel comfortable losing that beta tag.
Well, we'll make it. We'll work through it.
I certainly hope we will. So join us again. That, for anyone who wants to join us live, is going to be at 9 p.m. Eastern or 6 p.m. Pacific on January 3rd. You can hopefully do time zone conversions if you're anywhere in between or outside of that, and hopefully you'll be able to join us then.
Certainly. And don't forget to check the Cache-A-Maniac website at cacheamaniac.com. for more on the GeoGearHeads, including show notes from this and all our episodes. We love hearing from our listeners, so leave us feedback by calling 206-350-3647, by emailing geogearheads@cacheamaniacs.com, or through social media. Your support helps keep the Cache-A-Maniac shows coming. Please consider making a PayPal donation through the link on our website to support the Cache-A-Maniac shows. GeoGearHeads is produced by Chris Umfenauer and Daryl Wattenberg. This show's copyright 2012 by Daryl Wattenberg. All rights reserved.